In the lexicon of John Wick villains, this is definitely the most hated by a country mile. R.I.P. Daisy the dog. However, I would also volunteer as a close second Santino D'Antonio, because this guy is basically an internet troll. He hires John Wick to do a job, and then when the job is done, he turns it around and blames John Wick for it because he knows that John Wick can basically take him out with his pinky finger. All that's missing is the troll face and saying, it's just a joke, bro. And it's like, the trolling is complete. In all seriousness, though, hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam. Welcome back to the road to John Wick Chapter 4. I'll be covering the John Wick trilogy on this channel in honor of John Wick Chapter 4, coming out in just a couple of weeks. I've already talked about John Wick Chapter 1. That review will be linked in the eye in the right-hand corner if you would like to go check that out for yourself. But for right now, let's dive into John Wick Chapter 2. This was released in 2017. It was once again directed by Chad Stahelski, and it sees the return of Keanu Reeves as John Wick. This movie begins shortly after the first one ends. Basically, John Wick wipes out the Russian mob in New York. Basically, wipes them all out. And now he has a new dog. His car's a bit beat up, but he has his car back. And he is seemingly ready to officially retire and ride off into the sunset. But in the words of Al Pacino from The Godfather Part 3,
just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
More specifically, and relevant to this context, Santino D'Antonio, a former friend who, well, basically plays the most extreme IOU you could ever ask for. See, long story short, in trying to accomplish the impossible task, John Wick had to take out an IOU with the Italian mob in order to get it done. And, well, Mr. D'Antonio wants a seat at the high table, which is currently being occupied by his sister. And so he's like, hey, John, I have a marker. You need to go and do it. Because according to the high table, if you don't do what is asked for by the marker holder, you're basically done. You're killed. But then when the job is done, Santino basically turns on John Wick and puts out a $7 million hit on him. And, well, this is the first of what we would call John Wick versus the world, and the world is at a severe disadvantage. The first John Wick was far better than it had any right to be. Incredible action, a simple story that everyone could get behind, and most importantly, the return of Keanu Reeves. Basically, the Keanu Reeves that we got in stuff like The Matrix and Speed. Though I have a feeling, and rewatching clips of this for this review, there was a lot of, oh, this actually did better than we thought, so we need to make a series out of this. Because the first John Wick feels very open and closed, very much like there's a bit of a route to a sequel, but it's off the beaten path. But the movie made a lot of money, and so we were like, all right, it's sequel time. I will give credit, though, that this movie does close the chapter on John Wick Chapter 1 in about as good a fashion as you could ever ask for. The first 20 minutes of the movie, you see John Wick get his car back. He gets a little beaten up, but he gets it back. He has his dog. He basically goes back home and is like, all right, time to kick my feet up and relax. And symbolically, he closes up the hole that he beat up and opened in the opening of John Wick Chapter 1, containing all of his gold and his guns. So symbolically, this is the closing of that chapter, and with the arrival of Santino, it's the beginning of another one. We're officially out of the revenge mode John Wick and into the up, up, down, down, left, right, BA start version of John Wick. I've seen some criticism in other places saying that John Wick shouldn't be a trilogy or even a quadrilogy coming up, and it should have just remained standalone. I can kind of understand that, but at the same time, I'm not over these movies. Rewatching clips for this, It was just so much fun, and just seeing what they were able to accomplish from an action set piece standpoint, my jaw was on the ground. If there were effects works done, and I'm sure that there were, it was done very well, and most of it was practical effects. There is definitely some stuff where I was like, okay, that would not make any sense. Easily the biggest contributor is the gunfight that takes place in the subway station between John Wick and the assassin known as Cassian, played by Common. They're basically walking through a subway station and they're trying to shoot at each other with silenced 9 millimeters. And I've seen the Mythbusters episode where they actually debunked that silencers actually make the sound of pew pew pew. Well, that definitely does not work. Again, it's a movie, it's a piece of fiction, so you gotta understand that license will be taken. But I just cannot imagine walking through this subway station and being like, oh, these two are shooting at each other with guns. All right, that's a New York thing. Some people are tired of it. I'm not, though. I really love the action in these movies, and it gets even better in the next chapter, chapter 3, but more on that next week. Keanu Reeves is, of course, great, and really what I love about this character and in this mode is that he's not entirely invincible. He's just scarily good at what he does. However, he's just one guy, and it's a struggle for him to get to that next level. And so nailing that balance of invincibility and vulnerability is very precarious, and I think the movie did a good job of handling that. This movie also has a pretty good cast of some people returning, like Ian McShane, but we also get Lawrence Fishburne as the Bowery King. That's right, we get a Matrix reunion in this, and it's so much fun to see. One of my favorite moments in the movie, and it's probably the most famous one, is the one where the Bowery King's like, John Wick, I've heard you retired. And John Wick is like, I'm working on it. You see, John Leguizamo returned as the guy that runs the car shop. I forgot to mention his name in the chapter 1 review, but it's nice to see him. A newcomer in Franco Nero as the guy who runs the Rome Continental Hotel. He's not in the movie much, but I always enjoy seeing Franco Nero, and it was nice to see him. Ruby Rose from that Batwoman show that I've never seen, but I have heard is really bad, is in there, and she's actually quite good. And then there's Santino, played by, and I'm going to read the name so I get it right, Riccardo Scamarcio. I probably butchered that, and I do apologize, because his performance was very good. Like I said, he's basically an internet troll. He hires someone to do a job, but then turns it on him and basically thinks that he can try and take out John Wick. He is the perfect balance of weasel, but he just thinks that he can outsmart this guy, when in reality, he can't. He's practically useless. So much so that he tries to hide out in the Continental because no business can be conducted on Continental grounds, and John Wick is like,
surprise, motherfucker.
And really, I think the appeal for this movie, at least for me, is yes, the John Wick stuff, but we get to see more of the world of this crime syndicate. We see the Continentals and how you can't conduct business on Continental grounds, so much so that in the middle of a fight between John Wick and Cassian, they go into the Rome Continental and they can't hurt each other. So they go to a bar and they have a drink together, like two guys just getting off of work. And Cassian is like, I respect you, John, so I'm going to give you a nice death. These two are like these cutthroat assassins, and they're just gentlemen to each other. It's so intriguing, and I love it so much. Everybody in this movie are doing very evil, illegal, and ungentlemanly things, but really, they treat it like it's the most business-like thing you could ever ask for. It's kind of like Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, if you really think about it. And at the end of the day, I'm going to give this an amazing grade. I love this movie. Rewatching clips of it for this review, I just got so many good memories all over again. If I had to be forced to choose, I would give the narrow edge to the first John Wick. However, the second one is not that far behind. And really, John Wick Chapter 3 takes it to an entirely new level. But stay tuned for next week for that review. And if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. So when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.